So, a formal introduction. Welcome, Sandy Loaf, aka Third Pig Vintage, aka I don't actually know what your real name is.
My name is Sadie.
Is it like a first? Do people know?
No, people. I feel like I've been debating going by Mr. Loaf too, or just having many different names.
All
But
right, well, I can refer to you as that if you please.
Sadie, Mr. Loaf, or Sandy. That's all fine.
Awesome. The first thing I want to get into is, are you influenced by Maya Derren by any
Yeah,
chance?
yeah, definitely.
Because I really get that from your work, that like meshes, is it meshes of the afternoon?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was like the first abstract or avant-garde artist I think I ever got shown at art school.
Oh, that's really cool. Where did you go to art school?
I'm in Melbourne, Australia, so somewhere in the desert.
Nice.
Yeah, but it's cool though because Maya played with like movement and images and ritual, and I guess challenging the convention of cinema. Are you
Yeah.
inspired by the same themes?
Yeah, I think when I first saw her work, I was inspired by someone like it made watching her work made me feel like, oh, making a film is doable, even if you're just one person or maybe like two people setting up a camera
Yeah.
and like making compositions. I think my idea of like movies and film just seems so out of reach. And then the more that I researched it as I got older, like growing up in Pittsburgh, there's a really amazing history here with filmmakers and people that have done like a lot of groundbreaking special effects work and things within horror.
Can you tell me more about the history of Pittsburgh? Because I had to Google it. I found
Yeah.
out that you guys have Andy Warhol. You guys
Yeah.
also have Wiz Khalifa. Uh,
Yeah.
who else do you have? And in the special effects world, anybody I would know?
We have Tom Savini. He still
Oh
lives
fuck, you
here.
guys got tons.
Yeah.
That's
He
huge.
lives in Bloomfield and his house has like big gargoyles in front of it. He has a school outside of Pittsburgh in a
Yeah.
town called Madison. Um, and I was wondering if maybe I was the first person you had on here from Pittsburgh. So I was like, I hope I can.
I
I've
think
been
you
trying.
are.
I've been trying to think about like all of the elements to talk about with Pittsburgh, because it's like a big part of my work. And but it also is a really complicated place, probably like most places. But it's sort of like in America with a lot of the Rust Belt cities, there's like since I grew up in 94, so the mills closed down in Pittsburgh in 1990 and a lot of people left because there wasn't jobs here and it was like extremely polluted from all of the industry. And now those mills, like it's just like remains of the mills, like
Mm.
skeletons. And people are building all kinds of things. Like there's a big college here, CMU, which I think was originally a tech school where George Romero went to school, and he made Night of the Living Dead, and him and like all of his friends made that film.
I love the Romero trilogy, and I recently rewatched
Yeah,
it in full for the first time. I've got a lot of filmmakers who co-host this podcast, and they're a big Tom Savini, Gore, Giallo
yeah.
fans. And yeah, I know about that history. That's probably the only history I know. But George Romero, is he from Pittsburgh too? Yeah.
Um, I
Oh,
don't know if he's originally from here, but I think he spent a lot of his life here and like went to school here, like kind of like established himself with like making commercials. But there was a much larger population in Pittsburgh, like when the mills were still operating,
mhm.
as opposed to now. But now it's like with a lot of the Rust Belt cities like Buffalo, Cleveland, it's like they're up and coming cities. Like
Mm.
that's what I hear a lot. Which it's like what more wealthier people coming into areas and they can afford to buy and develop things. We also have like a lot of we have a couple of like bigger film production studios here, and I think they get tax write-offs to be here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole thing actually. Like people make full movies and then they don't release them because of tax write-offs and shit like that. But yeah, I know that with his crew, like it was a big community thing, right? Because he would just like hire his friends, people at the mall. Like everybody was involved in that movie. And there's a whole thing about Tarantino like lying about being on that movie because it was so easy to say that you were a zombie as an extra on a Romero film.
Really?
Yeah, which
That's
is really, really
funny.
cool. Is it similar to Detroit in that regard as well?
Totally, yeah. And I feel like with Pittsburgh, in ways, it's sort of like, like that industry isn't there's still like I grew up next to Clairton Coke Works, so I think that and like the Braddock Steel Mill, there's a couple still operating, but they're far enough away, I feel like, from the city that it's a lot of people like disassociate that is like still going on. But I'm really inspired by, like, I guess when I was a kid, I thought that those places made clouds. Like I was like, that's just how clouds are made, because it looks like that's just made the most sense to me.
It's probably the worst thing to breathe in the world, but
Yeah, it is scary. But I think that's like what has inspired a lot of, like, as I've gotten older, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes some sense. Like this is what I was seeing so often. It's like beautiful, but disturbing at the same time.
which is exactly what your masks are as well. You're kind of going through the balance, right? Between those two. Like they have makeup to an extent, they have like lipstick and stuff, but they're also quite grotesque. I don't know if like Pittsburgh, does it have a rivalry with cities that, like, Detroit is known as one of those cities, but because of people like, I guess, Jack White and also Jim Jarmusch, especially in that movie, Only Lovers Left Alive, if you've seen that one, like the way it picks that kind of area, like old industrial kind of zones as well. I imagine it's quite similar, but I feel like those guys are very much championing their city, whereas I don't know if anyone's championing, I mean, I guess you are, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think Pittsburgh, I mean, we have like a huge football team, or like there was always sports are like a huge element and like a big part of, like, I guess what brings a lot of people to Pittsburgh. And since a lot of people moved away, like there's a lot of love for Pittsburgh, even if you like left and then people like come back. But there are a lot of filmmakers and artists and that are present here and have existed here. And I think growing up, there's also this idea that, like, if you wanted to make art, or like my friends that got into modeling or different artistic things, like it's like, oh, you have to move out of Pittsburgh, like you have to go to New York or LA. And I was told that a lot growing up. But I just feel so visually inspired here, and there's a lot of art I want to make here. So I'm like, I really want to be here.
That's cool that you're so inspired. I mean, you said you were born in 94?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm 96 and I'm from Argentina, but I was taken here at 4 years old and I've been stuck here ever since. And all I want to do is leave. But you're still passionate about your area. You really like it. It still gives you inspiration.
If you hear that coughing on the audio, my cat has asthma, so
I've got asthma too. So if he needs my inhaler, we've had cats on the show before, but they smoke. They don't have asthma.
Yeah.
Not that this is related to your work, but I know that your cat is in some of your photos. What's your cat's name?
Chomsky.
Chomsky. And like, does a cat have an inhaler? Is that a thing that?
Yeah, they do make inhalers for cats.
Like baby ones?
Yeah, they're kind of like long. I've been watching video because for a while I didn't know what was going on. I thought it was like a hairball, which is like common, that people are just like, I don't know what's going on, but it's then realized he has asthma.
I've seen you mention the Sandman a lot. When I think of the Sandman, I think of Neil Gaiman's books, but also just the general concept of a Sandman, dreams. Do you get a lot of your ideas for the masks and your videos in dreams?
Possibly. Like I'll get really strong visualizations, so like maybe they're coming to me like subconsciously, and then I'll be driving around. I guess this is like a part of, like, with Pittsburgh, we don't have, like, there is public transportation, but the main way to get around, like, is cars. We don't have like we have a really small train system here called the T, but nothing like that can get you to a lot of different parts of the city. So you spend a lot of time driving around and looking at things, and I'll just start visualizing characters and ideas, or be driving somewhere and be like, oh, I really want to film at this spot, or I like getting up really high we have a lot of hills here, so getting really up high on elevation, different spots.
Yeah, I've seen you, like, the last one you did was on a hill where you were with, like, I don't know how you did it. I'm 6'9", so I assumed it was a tall guy, but actually, no, this is like a 10 feature. And you were crawling around in the hills, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's dope.
Yeah, that was the first big puppet I made. He's back there, but I don't know if you can see him. He can extend to like 11, 12 feet.
That's awesome.
Really fun to try out.
Yeah, you can help so many old ladies at the supermarket. In terms of like using your power for chaotic good as opposed to neutral or bad or evil, I've seen you do like a Pittsburgh motel evil clown sighting thing or something like that. Have you ever like done one of those things where like you just go out with your puppet at night and you just like see what happens and people document it and then it might end up on the news?
I feel I'm really shy and I struggle a lot with anxiety. So anytime that I'm filming, I try to be as low profile as possible when I'm filming. And when you're in masks or in character like that, you don't have a lot of visibility. Me and Dan, who just was helping me with the computer, my boyfriend, we were filming last night and I found this trail that looks over this bridge called the West End Bridge. And this trail is like connected to someone's backyard. And this guy was mowing his grass and we were like, oh shit, we had the Sandman out. I had my mask on and everything. And we were like, oh shit, he's going to kick us out right now. And he walked over and he was like, what the hell are you guys doing? He's like, this is sick. And he's like, is this going to be on YouTube? And we were like, yeah, for sure. And he was really excited. So normally like the interactions are normally like pretty happy, except with the clowns, I forget how people are really scared of clowns. I think in like 10 years ago now, there was like random clowns showing up in people's yards in this area.
Yeah.
The clown sighting.
The Pittsburgh thing as well.
Yeah. But yeah, I did like the big Humpty Dumpties on the T on the train, and like nobody was phased, or like people were just like cool with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like I try to put myself in like situations where like I can kind of like relax my mind a little bit when I'm filming and in the full costume. Because it's like when I'm filming, it's just me and Dan or me and another friend. Sometimes it's 3 people. I've been like meeting more friends that are into film and like filming stuff, but I didn't go to school for it. So I haven't like met a lot of people yet that are into it. And so yeah, normally it's just trying to think of like, how can we be the most comfortable in a very uncomfortable outfit?
Yeah. Some people might like put a mask on if they're shy or anxious to get over that. You know what I mean? I don't know what I thought of the Scream movies when I said that. But like, people like on stage, like we also have performance art in my band, and we've had like a human centipede that had these like paper mache masks on every single person, and they were all attached. And I think those people maybe normally wouldn't have crowd surfed or moshed the way that they did, but because they had been given an assignment, they could just be, it's that whole herd mentality. But you're going into it through a very different angle. And I guess there's only 3 of you and one of you is filming. So I guess the fact that you don't have much visibility or mobility means that if you did get into a situation, you'd be completely fucked.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes it's like we all take turns. So with the puppet that was really tall, me, Dan, and my friend Olivia, we each took turns being inside the puppet, testing it out, and then filming also. So it's kind of like a big collaborative effort. And
you said you didn't go to school for film, but did you go to school for visual arts or special effects?
I went to there's a school in there's a California in Pennsylvania, and I went to CalU really briefly. I tried out school, and then I found like a studio space in Bloomfield where Tom Savini lives in like 2014, and I was just like I want to paint like whatever it takes. I just really wanted to be painting really big paintings, and my grandma's a painter, so I had this idea growing up that like everyone's grandma painted, or like it was just like something that everybody did. And I was just like, I really want to paint. And then I went through a thing where I was like, actually, this doesn't help the world, or like I felt like the only thing that made sense at that time when I was younger was to like learn how to grow food. So I stopped painting and moved to Georgia and learned how to farm for a little, and then started painting on clothes, and that's what turned into Three Pigs. And I also worked at a vintage store when I turned 19 and like painted clothes in my mom's basement, and people would come to my house and buy clothes from me. So just like I was commuting back and forth to school, I just was feeling like more and more disconnected from it and just stopped going. But I wanted to go back to school for special effects. And Tom Savini has a program. I think it was like right before COVID. And I think it was going to be like $8,000 or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. It was pretty expensive. And I was like, it was like when I was really wanting to farm, like I wanted to maybe go back to school for a degree in architecture, but most of like the shorter degrees like that don't necessarily have funding here, or like it's harder to get financial aid because they're not like a full like 4-year program. So I've just been teaching myself.
And you're also like becoming a master at your craft as well. What kind of works does your grandma paint?
She paints wildlife. So she lived outside of like Ohio Pile, which is like a nature area. Her and my grandpa, she grew up in Homewood out like in Pittsburgh, and they took her out of high school and took like whenever CMU was like a tech school more, they were like, you're going to go to school here. So she was like drawing illustrations before computers and stuff. And her and my grandpa just like designed a lot of really cool like 60s and 70s houses that they built themselves around Pittsburgh.
Sick.
And yeah, then they lived in the woods near Ohio Pile, and she like paints a lot of, she's still around. She's like 85 and still painting.
And what was her first reaction to your works?
I feel like everybody in my family, like since I was a little kid, they were like, we know that you really like art, but if you pursue this, your life is going to be really hard. Like, you know, I think just growing up here, they're just like, there's not going to be anything for you to do in Pittsburgh. Like, you're definitely going to have to leave. And I feel like maybe that's why I've stayed too, because I'm just like, no, I believe in being here and making stuff here. But I think that they, like, my grandma's been in my films. Both of my grandmas are in my films.
I saw, yeah.
My dad's been in my films. Everyone in my family kind of has. And they don't necessarily get it, but they're not like, they're just like, that's just Sadie. I don't know. Like,
yeah. I know the feeling of, because we're a similar age, and like I know the feeling of wanting to make something out of your environment. And I know the struggles of that because I experience it every day. There's so much baggage that comes from that. And I guess from me, like it's because Australia is so far from everywhere else. So I felt like, well, Melbourne is supposedly the most hip city, you know, sorry, Sydney, but it's true. I mean, also they say, and like you try so hard to kind of elevate the scene. And I guess it can be tough unless you see some sort of traction. Like with playing shows, you can really see it because you can see people coming to your gigs, and that's the community that you're creating. But I guess both of us maybe, I mean, I personally want to operate from like a larger scale where I can really see some fundamental groundbreaking changes in my environment. And that hasn't come. So that's actually made me want to exit from here even more. Whereas like, I feel like what you're doing potentially is having the opposite effect. If you're actually creating, I think I always wanted an art collective through a band, you know, and that's a bad idea. Anyone listening shouldn't do that. It never ends well, but an art collective, just as an art collective, I think is better. People get free reign to do whatever they want, and that's more important. So do you feel like it's working? Do you feel like the battle is worth it right now?
I feel like Pittsburgh's one of those places where you can, like, you know, before COVID, I had a physical store, and that was like a vintage collective, and there were people that sold things there, and like people get really excited like to build community here. And I lived in Milwaukee, like I've lived in other cities, and it takes a while to get established. And I just feel like, I guess just because I've grown up here too, probably like maybe like it's just a different perspective, but I just feel like a really big sense of home here. But I do like every couple months, I'm like, I want to experience other places. I do get like that for sure at
Do
the
you
same
feel
time.
do you feel like a lot of the people that you grew up with, are you still close with them?
No, I don't talk to anyone I grew up with, other than my one close friend Cheyenne that we went like since middle school. But I grew up a little bit outside of the city, and it was like a very sheltered,
Hmm.
like racist community. It feels really bad, and like Pittsburgh definitely has elements of that for sure. Like people have talked about it because of like the geography, like parts of the city are very detached, but like people that I grew up with, they like married, like they met people in high school that they married and had kids with, and it's just like no one really leaves that area. So it felt important at the same time for me to leave and like experience the world more and have more diversity in my life.
And have you left America?
No, I would love to leave America. I went, I
I don't know why I phrased it that way, but I could.
I haven't gotten to, and I really would like to.
Yeah, I feel like there's certain European cities that would definitely appreciate what you do, for
Thank
sure.
you. That would be cool.
Now, obviously, we can't talk about masks and not talk about horror movies. So, like, what are some of like the groundbreaking horror films inspired you?
Oh, I think the first one, which is Creep Show, which was like a comic book series that
Yeah,
George
yeah.
Romero did with Tom Savini and Stephen King. I was so freaked out by the Grim Reaper in the opening credits, and I have all the books on like how they made that, and it was like a big puppet. Um, I'm trying to think of other horror movies. I feel like when I get asked about movies, sometimes on the spot, I blank out because there's so many that are
It's
like,
the same with like I have the list for when people ask me fave photographers, fave visual artists, and fave. But like I have the list ready to go, so I'll just like copy paste, fucking send it to him. Yeah,
yeah. But that has been sort of ingrained in my brain. I saw that when I was really young. Both of my parents really liked scary movies, and I saw a lot of scary movies really young, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
yeah,
I rewatched the original recently, and it's really cool to see like a horror movie in daylight.
yeah. And also the environment of that movie played such a large part of it. In the same way that the environment of, I guess, Pittsburgh oozes into, the characters that you create. Because yeah, you can't really think of Texas without thinking of that. And it was sold
Hmm.
as a real event for so long as well.
Yeah,
The law
yeah,
of
like Blair Witch Project. That's definitely one because when you watch something like that when you're like 5 or 6, especially the way that Blair Witch was shot too, you're just like, oh, I'm just watching people with their video cameras.
Yeah, found footage is definitely something I see in your works a lot as well. The found footage aspect. There's the collaboration that you did with your friend. That was like the closest I've seen to a Dr. Caligari style. Like, I was actually even wondering if you like shot in film or if you shot digitally or what the go is, because I've never seen that look, that old, like, there's that demon movie from like the 20s. It just reminded me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Nosferatu.
Yeah, that same kind of grainy, like horrifying look. How did you achieve that?
I've been getting really into the noise effect on Premiere and adding that grain. I do think it adds a nice element. And like also Elizabeth showed up like in like the full, very authentic like nun costume. And like I feel like right when I saw them in that costume, I was like, hey, I knew that it like had to be in black and white, but I use high 8 cameras and DV cameras and VHS cameras. I'm always collecting old cameras. But I've never gotten to shoot with like 16 millimeter celluloid film.
Yeah, maybe that adds to the look though, because maybe if it was actual film, it would be difficult to get that look. Like it's a very grotesque and like highly kind of saturated look. And I don't know if you'd be able to get that because film is quite flattering, even in like 70s art
Yeah,
house movies. I'm not the best guy to talk to about this. My co-host who was supposed to come on today is like he has like 70 cameras and stuff, but like
that's
that's more
amazing.
his angle. I'm just kind of about the aesthetic. and the
Yeah, I feel similarly. Like I picked up a lot of these cameras because they're a lot more user friendly to me. Like it just felt more tangible than like I still like struggle. I got to use like a cinematographer video camera for the first time, and I just felt like almost like too overwhelmed by it. And I just like I'm just looking at one right now that I have, but I just like how I can just like grab it and just.
What is that? What type of camera is that?
This is a JVC Super VHS camera, and I've gone through
You
a
guys to tape,
couple of
right?
these.
Straight to
Yeah,
tape.
this takes a high 8 tape, and like I can just throw this in a bag, and it's just like a really solid. I don't have to worry about breaking it or anything. And I often when I'm filming, I'll just instead of using a tripod, I'll just put the camera on the ground, or like I think it just like allows for more creativity with like angles, or I don't know, things just sort of happen that way.
Right. Also, you'd probably know that the I guess the association from a camera being on the ground is that somebody dropped it. So you're
Yeah,
already adding that kind of level of terror from the perspective. And also, I guess like there's a lot of propaganda movies, which I won't name because I actually like my podcast, but who shoots upwards. And that also gives these
yeah.
characters power, which
Hmm.
is really cool too. I mean, I saw that you did a Blue Velvet photo shoot. So obviously, David Lynch is a big,
Oh yeah. I mean, I view a lot of his films as horror films for sure.
yeah, I
I
would
think
say
they're,
so
like
too.
I know that in his era, like horror films had a really big stigma, or like that it wasn't really art or something, like from what I've read about, like when I think about like Vampira and like she was cast in like Plan B from Outer Space, but she had like an amazing TV show. And then people kind of like forgot about her. Like she was in that film and she was like never cast in other things. And it seems like, and even like Bela Lugosi, like people kind of got typecast into horror, and then they weren't able to like explore different genres, or weren't considered actors or filmmakers. And I don't, it's like so unbelievable to hear that now, because all of those films are so iconic and beautiful, and the acting's amazing.
Yeah, even
Um,
Plan B. I mean, the acting's not amazing, but the vibe's incredible.
fun to watch. Yeah.
It's like what I think people experience when they watch The Room. I don't like The Room, but I like watching Plan B. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Yeah, David Lynch. It is interesting that he kind of came out of traditional horror more into like nightmare, because I feel
Yeah.
like his stuff captures the feeling of being in like a nightmarish vacuum more than anything. Whereas like traditional character makeup horror movies, I mean, he has a bit of that, but it's not really reliant on that. There's something else kind of
Yeah.
happening too.
I didn't realize he did a lot of his own special effects. I mean, in Eraserhead, he did. And then when he did the Elephant Man, they really didn't like his makeup that he did, which I think he was like super heartbroken about. But then the makeup was really amazing. When I forget who ended up doing it, but I didn't realize that about him. But it makes sense because like another person I'm really inspired by, because he was a painter and he wanted to make his paintings move, and I feel like that is definitely what got me my gears turning with wanting to make films.
You've seen the stop motion one with the rabbits as well. Oh, it's not stop motion, is it? It's people in rabbit suits. Have you seen that? Where they're just like
Well,
there?
it's a part of not Mulholland Drive, sorry. It's a part of I always say Boardwalk Empire, but it's
Oh,
shit.
I
It's
actually forget what it's called.
it's not Boardwalk Empire. For some reason, I always say that, but it sort of sounds like that. Inland
Yeah.
Empire. And he shot that with DV cameras, which is why like I was like, okay, I want to try DV cameras.
Yeah.
And that's mostly what I've been shooting with now.
It's really great when like a band records something with their phone. I know King Gizzard does it a lot, or did it. And then you get directors like Sean Baker shooting on iPhones and stuff like that. Shout out to him. I made it onto his story, but my fucking co-host
Sick.
got the follow back. I didn't get the follow back. God damn. Because I didn't accept the co-host request. But anyway, it's neither here nor there. But he loves, yeah. I swear, anything that has film in it, I could probably get it onto Mr. Baker's story. But it is inspiring because like it goes back to what you said at the beginning of this chat, which was like the accessibility, like I guess like or the difficulty in entering with making movies. And you like I have the same problem. I've always wanted to be a director, but I swear to God, I've done everything but. I've done music videos, but I haven't like actually gone. Even when I'm on set, someone always takes over because I'm also an anxious guy. And so somebody will always be like, no, 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 let me do this, let me do this. And what happens is you don't really get to experience your full vision. And because you're using other people's cameras that sometimes cost up to 20 grand or 10 grand or even just like 3 grand Sony's, you're never the one that gets to be hands-on. So the lack of that kind of entry really fucks you up if you are an anxious person too. And you're like, damn, I wish I could just grab a camera and just shoot, which is exactly what you're doing.
Some of my friends work in costuming and, you know, set dressing and stuff whenever there's movies going on here. I just feel so drawn to just making my own work, or like, I feel like I'm better at communicating visually and through films. And like, I feel better about like, yeah, just like my level of communicating my thoughts and how I feel. Then I think that's why I was sort of nervous to do this. And I haven't done really any interviews or things because I just feel like my work kind of like says and expresses a lot of what I have to say.
Yeah, I guess there are artists who feel like by discussing their work too much, it can take away from the energy of it or the vibe of it. And I guess there would be people who would go as far as to say that the idea of humanizing themselves through an interview like this would not be great for that. But I feel like, I don't know, like, I guess it just depends on what your goal is, right? And I'm glad that you've actually done it because it is exciting to speak to somebody who hasn't really had a chance or hasn't decided to do it, you know?
I love listening to people talk about their work, and I like listen to interviews all day, and I feel like that's sort of how I've received my education with filmmaking is YouTube.
And I feel like we owe it to other generations or who are in their early 20s to do the same.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. I also saw that you did a Machine Girl video, which is crazy. You also did Black Moth, Super Rainbow. So I'm actually more a fan of Black Moth than Machine Girl. How did those come about?
Well, Tobacco reached out to me on Instagram last summer, and it's sort of like Tobacco's a part of Black Moth Super Rainbow. And I didn't realize that they're I didn't realize that like they're a Pittsburgh band. I actually didn't know who they were. And so I was asking my friends, I was like, because you know, like on Instagram, like there's so much spam, like you're just like, I feel like we constantly have to decipher between like what is real and what is fake, whether it's like your email, you get like a weird text message. And so I got a message and I was just like, is this real? Like, is this a real person? Do they really want me to make a music video? And my friends are like, no, Sadie, like they're like an amazing artist. And like Black Moth Super Rainbow's been in Pittsburgh, like from Pittsburgh. And I was like, oh shit. And I'd been working on videos, but I feel like doing the All Two of Us video with Black Moth Super Rainbow like sort of was like solidified that I was like, I really want to keep doing this however I can. And Tobacco just reached out, and I had done like a cutout of a keyhole, and he was like, you can do whatever you want to do as long as you sort of like, if you could just like add in that element. And it was sort of like a dream project because it was like they're all so creative, and it just like we're really excited about whatever I had to make, and we're just like, you can do whatever.
That's incredible. And was it the same for Machine Girl too?
They had a more distinct vision of, so the song was Asked to Mars, and it's like a Total Recall song. So they asked me to recreate Total Recall, which felt incredibly overwhelming. And I've kept having these ideas about Humpty Dumptys. And then I was like, oh, it'd be really funny to do like a Humpty Dumpty Total Recall, like the most fragile, like thinking about like fragile masculinity and just like making like this really fragile egg character to play Arnold.
That's so sick. I didn't even know that Black Moth was Tobacco. And that's even crazier because I don't know anyone here who listens to Tobacco, but it's one of those things where I feel like they're, in terms of that sound, whatever you could describe that like deep fried sound is, Tobacco is the greatest to ever do it. Yeah, literally the best. to ever do it, and very unique. So if Tobacco's
Yeah.
listening to this, hit me up. Get on. So sick.
And they're playing a show. I think they're starting a tour, so they're playing a show tomorrow, and I'm gonna do some visuals for that. So I'm really excited. So I've been
Sick.
editing today. So I'm gonna show some Sandman footage, but I'm hoping to turn that into like a full film that will premiere in Pittsburgh sometime in October. So I only have like
Cool.
1 more month. But
Cool. Well, actually, me and my co-host were thinking of going and doing a road trip in the US. So if
oh,
it's around the same time, we'll definitely check it out. That's
that would
dope.
be amazing.
I also saw that you did an alien coffee encounter, and that was that a commission piece?
I think after I did the Machine Girl video, people were like, you know, I had never, like, people have mostly just reached out for me to make music videos. I think it's another anxiety thing and like imposter syndrome thing where it's just like, I don't know if I could reach out and ask people. So I've been like practicing just like reaching out, which is really fun. And I reached out to Max, and Max has a coffee shop in Pittsburgh called Kinder Being. And I was just like, I've never done videos with food. Would you want to do something? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So that should be getting finished up pretty soon. And I shot with like a digital camera, which was fun. I've never done that
like
before.
really pioneering, like to push your kind of visuals into that kind of space, especially with food. Like I had some fried eggs before I came on this podcast, and like I was watching your videos, and it was quite challenging actually holding it down. But yeah, the idea of like, I think it would be so cool and progressive of businesses to take chances on creators like you, because it just makes sense. It's going to get people's attention, and it's a risk, right? For some people, like you're not going to get, I don't know what the equivalent of this is over there, but you're not going to get like a fine dining place doing it, but
That would be amazing though.
That would be fucking sick. You got like a sushi joint, like a 5-star Michelin star joint doing it, but you would get independent people who are kind of tech savvy and know what the algorithms kind of what it's about, and yeah, it would make so much sense in that regard. Obviously, we can't end this without talking about the animatronics, because that's also a thing that you do.
Yeah.
So where does that kind of fit into everything?
I think it was one of those things from like being at the thrift store a lot, and I got asked to do a show in New York a couple years ago called Silver Horseshoe, and they asked me to combine sculptures and a film. And I had gotten COVID and was watching The Storyteller a lot by Jim Henson, and there's like all these amazing puppets in that film, and I saw these animatronic dolls, and I was like, oh, I feel like I can deconstruct those dolls and sculpt on top of them and send them out to the show so that there's like moving elements and then a film playing behind them. And so I did like these 3 little demon characters that sat on my chest, and then the film was playing, and those were in New York. And that kind of started it.
Yeah, I feel like animatronics is a scary thing to like even conceive of doing. Like I wanted animatronics for my shows, and it's not. We've done gigantic laser beam shooting puppets with maces and tongues and shit, but we've never had an animatronic. And I think that's just because like maybe it's like Five Nights at Freddy's, or maybe it's like it's the whole.
People say that a lot.
Yeah. For sure. No, not that I don't want to be affiliated with that. I mean, it's more so like the idea of having a thing that moves of that scale is just so it's almost like if you were doing that as a small or independent band, you're not really an independent band anymore. That's like a production, you know?
Totally. There's an old theme park in Pittsburgh called Kennywood, and there's a ride called Noah's Ark. And it was made in like the 30s or 40s, and there's a bunch of animatronics, and they're really scary. And I think that's sort of always been ingrained in my head too.
Yeah, time would definitely make those animatronics scarier.
Yeah,
as they decompose.
Yeah, Noah looks pretty rough. If you look up pictures, Kennywood, Noah's Ark.
No, I'm good. I'm seeing that today. The caterpillar that you have, my keyboard player Sophie, I was showing them your work, and she said that she felt a deep maternal love for the caterpillar
Oh, that's
that
so
you
sweet.
made. What's the caterpillar's name and where is it?
I never named the caterpillar. The caterpillar's in my hallway. And I want to make a series of like big bugs. But yeah, I brought him to Spirit where the Black Moss Super Rainbow show is going to be tomorrow. And I did a photo booth there with the vintage market, and everyone was just so excited to see the caterpillar. So that was really nice. That was a really nice feeling. I'm glad
Yeah, it's
that the
interesting.
caterpillar
Like,
brought
I
joy.
think it's bug lovers, you know, there's a lot of bug lovers in fashion and in the independent music scene, and they don't really
Yeah.
talk about their love for bugs. So once they see your caterpillar, they go crazy. They just
Yeah.
That's awesome. The last thing I want to ask, obviously third pick vintage. We haven't really gone into it, though you've alluded to it in the chat. Where do you feel fashion intersects with these masks? Do you feel like it's something that you're actively considering too? Like how obviously like you can put a cloak on top of a mask or whatever, but in terms of like actually how you style yourself and where does that world kind of blend in with the masks?
I feel like costuming is like crucial to building the character. And whenever I'm watching films, I'm always like I don't know if you've ever seen like films that Edith Head did costuming in, but like I remember these distinct costume designers, or like in Alfred Hitchcock films, with Vertigo, like the symbolism of like a brooch or like a specific color that somebody's wearing. I
Yeah.
think about all of those elements, and I'm really into like, when Machine Girl asked for Total Recall, I was like, okay, I want the bad guys to have like big 80s leather jackets on. And I feel like that all comes into play. Um, because like without the costume, I feel like the mask, like it doesn't bring it to life without the
Mhm.
costuming.
You're right. Yeah, it's just like you can have a cool hairstyle, but if you don't have the clothing to go with it, it just falls to shit.
Yeah, nothing's like, I hate when I'm watching a film they're trying to do like, it happens more, I feel like with modern cinema where they're like trying to reference like a certain time period, but then the costume, like they're wearing stuff that's from like not the right time period, then I instantly am like out of it, you
Yeah,
know.
you see it a lot.
Intentional.
You see it a lot in, I guess, like in horror movies. Because I guess now with horror movies that come out these days, unless it's like Cronenberg, like Cronenberg
Yeah,
is still making fucked up shit. I think Cronenberg
yeah,
is making fucked up shit. But the other kind of movies you get, like The Nun or whatever, you know, one, two, three, four, five, like those
yeah,
movies, I think they focus too much on the jump scare and the actual appearance of the thing, but they don't take into account all of those other aspects that really kind of built that kind of terror. You know, if you look into a movie like The Shining, it's not even necessarily about how people look, you know, it's just the vibe. It's just, I guess, the mise en scène and the decor and the clothing, it all
sure.
adds to it. It's all being considered. So
Yeah.
the only thing I'd ask is if you have any advice for future creatives.
I think just like, even I get in my head a lot of being like, "Ugh, I don't know why I'm doing this." Or like sometimes I'll be like sculpting something or editing a video and be like, shit, I don't know what I'm doing right now. But it's like, I feel like persevering and like experimentation, and like I think a lot of people ask me like, oh, what camera are you using, or like what, like whenever I'm painting stuff for the store, like people wanted very like even what paintbrush I was using. But I feel like that's so personal, and to just like whatever you have in your environment and whatever resources you have available to you, like trying to make something with that. And I feel like that's like the most, like creating in a really authentic way is gonna just like feel really good, even though I know in the moment it can feel like, how am I going to do this right now? And I still am trying to figure that out currently because I don't have a laptop. So I'm trying to figure that out. And even without a laptop, if you can borrow friends, or, and also like building, like finding people that want to work with you, and just going with your gut. If you have an idea, if you're like, this doesn't feel right, and then maybe like for a long time, I was just pursuing like fashion and vintage. And I was just like, I was modeling for a long time. And I just was like, something doesn't feel right to me. Like this, I noticed like this is not feeling good, like having to post on social media so much of my face and my body. And so that I started making masks, or being like, I'm going to keep playing with my form. And yeah, I just feel like with more experimentation and doing that with your heart, will lead to good things, even though it might feel impossible in the moment.
That's really good advice. And it's, when I went to art school, I went to learn how to paint, and they never taught me, but I did sort of have at my disposal, I had like a black marker. And so I used that black marker to make like probably 4,000 works. And now I'm sick of it. But at the time, if I had gone into any other field, I probably would just been copying, other people. But I found who I was at the time, and maybe who I am right now, just denying it, that I'm just this fucking thing. But it's true, like whatever you've got at your disposal, or whatever you could get at your disposal, with the littlest amount of money possible, just enough to facilitate the process and actually get something happening. Because I think as artists, we just need to see movement. We just need to see progress. We just need to see something like a carrot just in the distance, and just like keeping us with momentum. So yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Mr. Loaf, and enjoy the rest of your day, night, whatever it is that's going on over there.
Thank you so much. You're the first person I've gotten to talk to from Australia, so this is
hopefully not the last.
Yeah. Have a good day.
You too, thank you.